Well, hello, everyone. Welcome to Teaching with Grace. We're so glad that you could be here, the presenters and the participants. And we're looking forward to a great discussion during the next half hour. My name is Faith Little, and I work with the Center for the Professional Education of Teachers here at Teachers College, Columbia in New York City. And I will be in the background just helping support the call as it goes forward. But really, let's turn it over to the presenters that we have today. Khaitsa, I'll let you take it away.
Thank you. Thank you, Faith. Hi, I'm Khaitsa Wasiyo, and we'll be talking about augmented reality and virtual reality. And I'm here with my colleagues from the Virtual Reality Training Academy. I think we have 4 or 5 people joining us from this awesome group that went through a 4-month program. It's longer than that, 11 months, and we had just completed 4 months. And we've all been certified as virtual reality developers. So we will share our perspectives as educators, as students, and certainly as people who are very much interested in virtual reality. Now, before we move on to looking at virtual reality or augmented reality in education, I wanted to make sure that we're all on the same page about what these terms mean. So in augmented reality, basically information is added to an actual environment. Nothing is replaced. So you might have a device like a phone. For example, here you might have a mobile phone and there's a picture of Pokemon Go, and there's a real road and tree, but this little guy has been added to kind of give an experience of the game. In virtual reality, your environment is completely replaced by any environment that you're accessing, either via an HTC Vive device. And here Kathy is also exploring the HTC device. So in virtual reality, your environment is completely changed. And so you move along the spectrum where you go from your own physical reality to augmented reality to virtual reality, depending on what devices you have. So now Vincent will talk about how it works.
Sure. So, as Khaitsa just said, AR and VR are actually two different technologies, very closely related, but they are rather different. And as such, they do require different equipment. With AR, you can use your cell phone, which is the most common way of using AR. As she just said, you have Pokemon Go. I know kids are using Snapchat where they put the wreaths on their heads and all of these things. And all of that is part of augmented reality. There's another part of augmented reality that does utilize head-mounted headsets, such as the HoloLens. That's a very expensive piece of equipment, though. There is no consumer version of it. And as Khaitsa has said, the way I always like to see augmented reality is that it adds a layer of information to your real world, which is, fantastic. The possibilities of that are endless. With virtual reality, your entire environment is replaced. And for that, you can use technology such as Google Cardboard and Gear VR, which, can cost anywhere from $5 to $45. Or if you want, the higher quality, fully immersive experience, then it's the Oculus Rift or the HTC Vive, which you can see at the bottom. Those are the bottom 2 images in this particular slide. And the experience with that is completely different. With that, your entire real-world environment is just replaced. You can go to the top of Mount Kilimanjaro or to Mars, and you will actually see it as it exists, as the developer sees it, as it exists. You'll be able to experience Mars, as if you were on Mars, obviously with the benefit of an atmosphere here on Earth, so you wouldn't have to worry about lack of oxygen. So the experience actually is phenomenal, and it really affords, a very different type of immersive experience where you could experience, again, Mars, you can pick up rocks and stuff of that nature. So those are the different, equipments that you would need to experience AR and VR.
Great. Thank you, Vincent. So with those tools in mind, how are schools using AR, VR? It's still a new trend, but many institutions are using it to send their students to have virtual trips and expeditions. As Vincent mentioned, imagine being able to visit Mars, and imagine being able to explore the solar system. If you're building a building, imagine being bigger than a 6th-floor building and walking around and looking at it, or being small like a molecule and kind of exploring the journey of that molecule as it combines with other molecules. So with AR and VR, you're able to explore popular places, intricate concepts in various ways. And it also supports content creation and modeling complex topics that would require, a lot of maybe text description or content that is three-dimensional being displayed in a two-dimensional way, which Vincent will touch on, which makes it even harder to learn. So AR, VR makes it easier to convey these complex topics. And it's also used in data visualization. We're going to see an example shortly of how you can be in the midst of a whole lot of data and be able to analyze all its boundaries and come up with some new insights and understandings that would not be possible otherwise. It is heavily used in medical training, as you can see, to explore the body for the doctoral students who are learning, the heart and the organs. So AR, VR has enabled learning in a way that is cost-effective and safe in many ways. So here are a couple of examples. These sites over here are just resources that are readily available, because one of the questions that come up is, well, do I have to become a VR developer? It's going to be too complicated to do AR or VR in my class. There are actually a lot of good resources now available for free that would allow you to add elements of AR and VR into your class, whether it's Google Expeditions, Google Arts and Culture, or Full Drive VR, as well as the Discovery Channel, and many more. And I just showed the Android versions, but definitely the iOS versions are there as well. And then these are just examples of someone exploring the heart or students studying the body. So that's some examples of applications in education, and Vincent will talk more about how he might use it in teaching chemistry.
So yes, as Khaitsa mentioned, it affords you the ability to really, explore abstract concepts. So I teach chemistry, organic and general chemistry, and oftentimes we're dealing with concepts that are abstract and occur at the atomic level, right? Which makes it, remarkably difficult to convey this information. In part because a lot of the interactions that we're discussing, one, they've never been photographed. Two, they occur at the in three-dimensional space, but we utilize two-dimensional technologies such as textbooks, computer screens to convey this information. So there's a lot of just information, knowledge that is lost when we transfer that understanding. And oftentimes it takes a very long time. You're not going to get that knowledge in school. You have to go into the field, practice for a certain period of time before you actually come across that eureka moment and you're like, wow, now I fully understand. You know what? So these things, are very abstract concepts. They occur at the atomic level, and they're always occurring in our real world. So they're occurring in three-dimensional space. Virtual reality allows us to take those interactions that we have through theoretical chemistry and mathematical calculations, have decided this is the way they interact. And through use of certain specific equipment, we've confirmed that the mathematical models and the theoretical chemistry is actually correct. We're able to create images of these things, and this is where virtual reality would play a huge role, in part because we would be able to take those and really create simulations where we take a look at chemical bonding, we take a look at stereochemistry, and students would, instead of seeing this on a sheet of paper or having to put together molecular models. If you ever played around with a molecular modeling kit, you play around with it for like a few minutes and then you put it away because it's just too cumbersome. In virtual reality, you would literally just be able to call these things up. Not only that, you'd be able to interact with them, tear them apart, see how they react with one another, as well as explore the things that we are unable to photograph, those orbital theories and stuff of that nature. To take it a step further, in the laboratory is where I think it would shine as well. Usually I recall when I was going through school, coming into the lab, we had a small amount of time in the lab. We had, 3 hours, depending on the lab. It might have been 4 hours, but we had no idea what the techniques, what equipment we were going to be using was coming into this lab. And even if we read a manual, it's just a manual. Even if we saw a picture, still a two-dimensional picture versus usually they were drawings instead of images of the actual equipment that we were going to use. So now as an educator, I see the same exact thing. I see a lot of these students coming into the wet lab. There's a certain level of anxiety because one, they get to do an experiment once and only once. So if they mess it up, that's it. This is their lab report. And they come in to learn a new technique, to do this experiment, do it correctly, and hand in correct data. So for them, that's a lot of stress. So when they come in just wanting to carry out essentially just a recipe. This is what I have to do first, this is what I have to do second, this is what I have to do third. And they never stop really to think much about the impacts that, why they are doing the things they are doing. With virtual reality, what would be great is if you could have a simulation of the labs that they do before they come into the wet lab. So now they're actually practicing these techniques, practicing the equipment. The simulation will tell them this is the wrong piece of equipment to use when you are doing this particular experiment or this particular technique. So when they come into the lab, they've already seen the equipment. They've seen it as it would exist in three-dimensional space because it's an exact, perfect model. So they would come in already with that recipe in their mind. So when they come into the lab, they'll actually be thinking about why they're doing what they're doing rather than following a procedure. So then we go from essentially just teaching them a procedure to actually passing on knowledge to our students. And that's ultimately what we want, to pass on knowledge. So that's the next evolution for me of teaching, being able to pass on knowledge rather than a set of steps that you need to follow. And VR.
I'm also hearing that they're becoming creative and problem solvers, so they have that freedom to do that.
Absolutely, absolutely. And that's where VR, I think, shines, because we would be able to create that immersive environment. They will feel like they're in a real lab, and they will see equipment exactly as it exists in the real lab.
Okay, great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you for sharing that. All right, other applications include special education, and I think Aaron wanted to say something about that.
Well, VR has the benefits of allowing you to remember longer, learn faster, and make better decisions. So with VR and special education, it allows you to have all these benefits of being in an immersive environment where you can learn everything in a more comprehensive way. You're able to repeat it in case they're slower learners.
And it provides access, like it allows people with different disabilities to have more ways of consuming knowledge.
And you're immersed in the environment, so you're able to just learn better, faster, and retain it longer, and you're able to do it at your own pace.
Absolutely. And then you were also going to say something about job readiness and training.
In terms of job readiness and training, I think this technology will revolutionize that area because it allows people to allows them to experience things that they would not be able to use in regular training. For instance, right now we're doing a benzene project in class, and it's a safety training video. And for benzene to train on a regular refinery, it would be very expensive training. It would be very cost prohibitive, but VR training allows you to have the same training in a very short amount of time and allows you to have it on the on-site location, and instead of shipping people to a specific refinery to have that specific training. So it's cost effective, it's more efficient, allows you to have more training, which allows you to be more safer in a work environment.
Absolutely, and I think you're right. It'll be very revolutionary because people will be able to really learn at their own pace in a real immersive environment what they need to be effective and safe in such situations, for example.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay, great. Thank you. And I believe David wanted to talk about school brand awareness, partnerships, and recruiting. I know that institutions are using AR and VR to reach and connect with students in various ways?
Yes, we've been kind of ideating about different things we can do from a brand awareness. One of the big things coming up for Newman College is the 50th anniversary. And there's a committee that's sort of planning out some activities for the 50th. And, you know, all the usual suspects like a website and maybe a forum of talking about, you know, your own experiences at the college. These things are all there, but we really think we could take it to a whole other level by doing an interactive art gallery project. So this is the idea of, you know, generating interest among alumni and others to come, actually physically come to our art gallery and hold their phone up to, you know, pictures of the past of the campus's last 50 years and getting supplemental media and maybe models of the campus and dignitaries and other things that would come up. So, you know, from a philanthropic point of view, fundraising, we think it could be quite powerful from bringing alumni here and just having that emotional connection with their past and their future. Because we actually have also talked about getting some of the architectural models for the new things coming. There's actually a new performing arts center to be built and an extension of the science building, which Vincent will hopefully benefit from. That's also in the plan. So, you know, we can actually, you know, with AR, show the past, but also show the future and show them the direction we're going. And another big thing is that we're really into exploring is data and superimposing data. So the idea of like placement rates, for example, which can be really used for marketing as well. I mean, you could sort of quickly see, like nursing placement is quite high. So for a prospective student to immediately see it in augmented reality, you know, maybe on a map where the students are placed in the Bronx. There's so many hospitals in the Bronx, and the placement rates is a very powerful thing. So that's one thing. And we also thought about doing some things with the arts as well. There's our dance program here is going to be doing a play coming up, sort of a dance theater play. So, you know, dropping a 360 camera and filming a dance performance and then setting up a little VR sort of space near the Performing Arts Center and having students check it out.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, little things like that. So we're sort of looking for, you know, low-hanging fruit that we can do quickly, and it's really about generating buzz. And, you know, younger people are early adopters, and for them, I think for them to pop on some classes and see a performing arts piece or something happening at Lehman that gets them interested in it, or for alumni, that's a big thing. But and then the last thing I'll say is this idea of community engagement and also the sort of revitalization of the Bronx. You know, there's been something.
The revitalization of the Bronx?
Yeah, there's kind of a renaissance, we think, you know, happening in the Bronx. And our vice president here, Ron Bergman, has been a huge advocate of making the Bronx a real technology hub in New York City. So, you know, we have this VR lab partnership with Eon Reality and Lehman College, and that's a training that we've all been involved with. But we think there's also a lot of offshoots that can happen from that. So, you know, deployment of apps. I mean, our group, several members of our group here presented at the New York City Media Lab recently, and that was a nice first step. And there's other venues. Do
you have any pictures you can show or no?
You know, I just sent you our storyboard. Maybe I know Michael and Aaron are on the line here as well, so maybe between us we could, or post event we could.
Okay, I can upload it. Okay.
Yeah, something like that. But I think we also really feel strongly that we're on the cusp of perhaps another gold rush of sorts. I mean, I think we had the .com.
Exactly. This is the VR one.
The VR one, and I think between AI, artificial intelligence, augmented reality, virtual reality, and APIs, the integration of data and the availability of open data and services from companies sharing applications and data, right? The merger of those things is really profound. So getting students involved in that and thinking about that and building out little applications could potentially, could take us in any number of directions, but they're all pretty good. So, it's about building businesses. It's about building partnerships. It's about making things happen. And we think we're on the cusp of a really disruptive technology here. So.
Absolutely. Thank you, David. All right. So now this page is also about Eon Reality and the different solutions they have for education. They have various options there. It's easy to visit. But I was wondering if Michael or Kathy wanted to say anything about their experiences as students in the program or their perspectives on the role of VR in education.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, now we can. Yeah.
Hi, yeah, I want to add a perspective. I think this, VR with education, it's really about making education fun again.
Yes.
Giving people who have now in 2017 a million distractions. You have your cell phone, you have all these texts, social media, and if you can now take a VR app and actually engage the student,
yes,
get them interested in what you're teaching them, then their education is sort of not even like they're thinking about it from a requirement. They're engaged and they're excited about it.
Mm-hmm.
And so really then the challenge is just, making good content. And I think, my perspective from the course is that the closest thing we have to actually dreaming is virtual reality.
Yes, that's well said.
Could I comment on Michael's point really?
Yes.
So, our new president at Lehman College has got this new initiative called 90 by 30.
Called what?
Called 90 by 30.
90 by 30,
90 by 30. And what it is to double the amount of degrees or certificates by the year 2030. Right now we're on pace for students to earn 45,000. And the goal is to double that, to make it 90,000, hence
right,
by 30. So, we're not probably going to get a lot of new buildings and new classroom spaces and maybe we can reach into Westchester and get more students from Westchester or elsewhere in New York City to come to campus. But it really, I think a bulk of this, of achieving this goal is going to happen from distance learning.
yeah,
And
using tools like this.
And using tools like this, Michael's right on, and making it immersive, making it engaging, and making it fun. And it's a challenge to build good content, but there are a lot of available resources and models and things that are out there, as we said, APIs and open data, of incorporating these things to start rapidly prototyping things. So it's certainly within reach.
Absolutely.
But Michael, great point. I think that's...
Yeah, no, thank you for saying that. It's all about, it's fun and exciting.
Yes.
And sometimes, we're looking at how can we justify that investment. But at the end of the day, when you're creating critical thinkers, problem solvers, and leaders, this is one way that works. They have a long history of providing these solutions and collaborating with various institutions to create things-like solutions that really enhance learning and develop skills in a more comprehensive way.
This is great. I want to know if there's anyone out there that might have questions or anything they'd like to add during our last few minutes of the call.
One of the things that's so fascinating about this is I typically think about AI and virtual reality as things in the future. And I'm an old person now, so I'm thinking about Minority Report and, Tom Cruise with the screen and swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. That's like extremely futuristic. And really, that's now. That's so live.
Yeah, that is. Mm-hmm.
And I think about this is so leading edge, and it seems so futuristic,
Yeah.
but the possibilities are so ripe and so wonderful for connecting with college students and for high school students, thinking about the connection to special needs students as well.
Yes.
But it's not so much a question, but maybe a comment that it seems so challenging then to think about bridging the divide. I was at a school yesterday, a very nice school in Queens, and they've got a great campus and a beautiful building, and thirds of their smart boards don't work anymore.
Yeah.
Right, and they're mostly glorified overhead projectors.
Exactly.
And that challenge of sort of bridging between the 20th and the 21st century, or what I imagine is like the 22nd century, but it's happening now, so I don't want to be left behind. But I think that that's just something that I'm thinking about, is this wrestling with all the things that are so cutting edge and so ripe for opportunities, and yet many of the students who need them the most won't really have access to them.
That's right, Roberta. And Roberta is the director of the Center for Professional Education of Teachers. So her team is hosting this whole workshop. And I think with more Robertas and people like you leading these kinds of events, a greater awareness will be there, and we can bridge the gap more effectively. So go ahead, David.
Comment. I think Roberta's really, that summarizes it so well. And one thing we've sort of thought about with AI is just the profound, of course, implications of it. You know how we used to sort of, I don't know if you did, but we've said in the past, if you could have a conversation, 30-minute conversation with anybody in history, who would it be and what would you talk about? You kind of can do that now with these AI bots, effectively. Like, they're sort of contextual series where you could have, maybe in chemistry, for example, you could have a sort of guide or a tutor, a virtual tutor, and it mines basically all the data out there that that artificial intelligence can do, and it's conversational. So you have this profound thing, there sitting there. And for teaching, of course, that doesn't replace, I don't think would replace faculty members or instructors. That would.
No, don't say that.
No, it won't. I don't think it will. I think it's basically a supplement. It always.
Yes, I know. I'm just teasing.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you for that. I wanted to also just take us to the Lehman page because this program took, I think, 2 to 3 years of development with the Vice President Ron Perlman, right, David?
Bergman.
Yeah. And with his partnership with Eon Reality, we were able to come up with this program that my daughter and I are in, as well as my colleagues here. And it has allowed us, I never thought I'd go back to school after my many years at Teachers College. But this was also intriguing, and I thought it would be great to do this class. So I have to thank the team at Lehman College for the hard work they did in materializing this vision in the Bronx.
Thank you. Can you go to the site? Can you show it to people? This is our promotional website, lehman.edu/VR. And I think the case studies are quite interesting on this site that shows some of the, the real applications for this. Some of these videos are really compelling, and they show students who can be somewhere on the other side of the world who are participating in the class, shows 3D models and the different learning modalities and things that can be done with training and education. So it's the case studies, I think, are really inspirational. And if people can spread the word about the program, I think we all would agree that we certainly have learned a lot in the knowledge transfer. Very challenging.
That's really, it's really fantastic. I'm glad that you brought up going to the site, and it's really helpful to think about directing people to the case studies so that they can really dig into something that seems like it's very exciting and something to look forward to, as well as having in the present now. So that's wonderful.
Thank you.
We just have about 30 seconds left, so I just want to thank everyone for joining us and wish you well for the rest of your day. And we look forward to the next time that we can be together on Teaching with Grace. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye,
you.
everybody.
See you guys later.
Yeah.